Hey all, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this video we're going to be doing my top 8 new builds for DLC to try. These are going to be both fun and powerful options that you could take into Elden Ring's DLC, which by the way looks phenomenal. I cannot wait for it. And by the time this video releases, we're only around 12 days away, which is crazy. We've got a high HP build in this one too, where you're going to be able to reach around 3000 HP. Look at the bar we have at the top there, it's pretty insane. There's a lot of good builds in this one to try out for sure. And we've also included a build that has Placidusax's or Placidusa's Ruin, however you say it, combined with a bleed build. This is new builds for DLC to try out, and this is a really good video. Well, at least a lot of awesome builds in this one. Now, if Holy ends up being good, we have a different all-Holy option for you. This includes using the Golden Order Greatsword in combination with the Sacred Relic Sword. You could actually power stance these two, and the Ashes of War work well together. If you never tried out using these two together, I recommend it. Yeah, Holy's not that great in the late game. It may play a better part in the DLC. I'm not sure yet. If it ends up not being good in DLC, then it's going to just be a bad damage type, and that would be unfortunate, especially since it looks like fire is going to be pretty resistant too. Yeah, I mean, seriously, without Holy, they're going to leave us with 2 elemental damage types based on the trailers and what I've seen so far. Again, I'm trying not to do too much in terms of spoilers for myself here. I've seen a little bit, but it looks like so far that it could end up playing a decent role at least. Probably a better option than fire, because there's going to be a lot of fire-resistant bosses. And we get a nice finisher on the dragon here because we're able to power stance these. As I mentioned before, they power stance well together, and you're going to get a good amount of jump attack damage out of them too. It could be a really good option for DLC. Definitely something to look into. Let's jump into stats here in a second. Equipment, everything you need to know for this build. And we have the Golden Order Greatsword and Sacred Relic Sword, preferably +10. We're using the Godslayer Seal. It's mainly for buffs. We're using the Raptor's Black Feathers. We have 51 poise. Shard of Alexander, Sacred Scorpion Charm, Ritual Swords Talisman, Arsenal Charm +1 or Great Jar's Arsenal, Holy Tier, Faith Tier. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor on this one, 55 Faith with the Faith Tier. We have 40 Dexterity, 20 Strength, and then we have Golden Vow and Hellish Fury as our buffs. And next up at number 7, we have the Crucible Knight upgraded build. This build uses the Crucible Axe set in combination with Siluria's Tree for ranged attacks, and then if you want to get up close, we're also using Ordovus' Greatsword. So both these weapons scale very similarly. Siluria's Tree, that's going to give you a ranged attack. I don't know if that's how you say that, by the way. I'm not great with some of the pronunciation. And then Ordovus' Greatsword itself is better for up close and does a ton of posture damage. Yeah, you can break enemies pretty easily. This is New Game +7 all footage. I took on mainly tough side bosses to keep out spoilers, but if you're on New Game Plus especially, Ordovus' Greatsword, Ordovus' Greatswords, Vortex, Ash of War does ridiculous amount of posture damage. So this video I took on mainly tough side bosses and kept most of the spoilers out of this, but I just want to say I'm getting a lot of beginners lately. My late game builds, which is mainly what I do, 150 builds, there will be spoilers for the most part in a lot of my videos, and I also want to welcome all the new people because there's a lot of you. Elden Ring is an amazing game. Let's jump into equipment. And we have Ordovus' Greatsword +10, Siluria's Tree preferably +10. We have the Erdtree Seal. We're using the Crucible Axe set. We have the Shard of Alexander, Godfrey icon. We have the Erdtree's Favorite +2, Great Jar's Arsenal, and then we have the Holy Tier and Faith Tier 2. Now, this is on a class that started as Bandit. This is my other class I use at 150. So you could take those 5 points out of Arcane if you're a different class and put them into Endurance, and then you might not need Erdtree's Favorite +2 as well. We have Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, Blessing Spoon as our buffs, 60 Vigor, 50 Strength, 45 Faith. And number 6, we have the Slayer of Gods build. This includes the Godslayer's Greatsword, which does massive damage with its Ash of War, unique Ash of War, the Queen's Black Flame, in combination with the Black Flame Fireball, which is a little bit of a hybrid build here. And why is it a hybrid build? Well, that's because the Godslayer's Greatsword scaling, even on the Ash of War, scales with Dexterity and Faith. Pretty split evenly on the two. The fire part's going to be Faith, and then any of the physical damage is going to come from your Dexterity set. So I forgot to use the Black Flame set, so I'm going to show you where to get that after this clip. I want to show you where to get that set, because it really is a cool set to use specifically for this build and setup, and I like this one a lot. The Godslayer's Greatsword is a really fun Ash to use. Let's jump into equipment and stats. Alright, to become a Godslayer, you're going to need the Godslayer's Greatsword +10, the Godslayer's Seal. I had the Raptor's Black Feathers, we hit 51 poise, Shard of Alexander, Fire Scorpion Charm, Ritual Swords Talisman, Erdtree's Favorite +2, Flame Tier, and Faith Tier. Yeah, by the way, increasing fire damage is great for this one because the Ash of War does a lot of fire damage. We have 60 Vigor, 40 Dexterity, 20 Strength. We have 55 Faith with the Faith tier. And we have 20 Strength, of course, so we could single-hand and cast with our offhand. We are using Golden Vow for this one, Flame Grant Me Strength, and the Black Flame Fireball. And where do you get this cool and awesome looking set that fits perfectly for you, by the way? And I recommend using different gauntlets so you can get to 51 poise. I think the full set has 50. You can get this at the Divine Tower in Caelid, where you can farm the set itself, as well as grab the Godslayer's Greatsword weapon. And you can also find the Godslayer's seal just south of the Liftside Chamber site of Grace in that courtyard. It's actually right out past the Grafted Scion, and you make a left and go down the stairs. And the next one up here is the No Need for Bleed build. This uses 2 Gargoyle Twin Blades, or you could use 1 Gargoyle Twin Blade and 1 Twin Knight Sword if you're on a first playthrough. And we're using Craig Blade here to hit 650, a little bit over 650 AR on each of pure physical damage. Yeah, this one hits insanely hard. Craig Blade adds physical damage and posture damage, and it really combines well with the Gargoyle Twin Blades or 1 and a Twin Knight Sword. Let's jump into equipment. For if DLC has bleed resistant or immune bosses, we have 2 Gargoyle Twin Blades in heavy affinity with Craig Blade, Claw Mark Seal, Raptor's Black Feathers, Green Turtle Talisman, Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, Claw Talisman, Millicent's Prosthesis, Thorny Tier, and Faith Tier. And now for stats on this one, this is basically a pure strength build. We have 66 strength, we have 25 faith with the faith tier, we have 60 vigor, 23 mind, we have 32 endurance so we can carry some weight, and we're using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. And the next one up here, there's going to be 2 options. I'm going to show the most basic one first. At number 4, we have the True Samurai. This is a endgame version of the build that I posted yesterday, which is an early game Samurai build. I'll put that in the description below. And this is an awesome one for quick bleed build up and a good amount of physical damage too as a dexterity build. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know. Can add the white mask for more damage, but I like running this as a samurai look. We have the Keen Nagakiba with double slash using Blood Flame Blade, any seal for buffs. We have the Iron Casa, part of the Ronin set, Shard of Alexander, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, Millicent's Prosthesis, Thorny Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And now for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 26 Endurance, 75 Dexterity with Millicent's Prosthesis, 25 Faith with the Faith tier so we can add in some buffs, of course. And then for our buffs, we're going to be using Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, and Blood Flame Blade. And Samurai option number 2. This is the one that's a little bit different. Now for this Samurai, we're going to be using Unsheathed, which is going to give us a good amount of posture damage, somewhere around 35-ish, maybe 40 for each use of Unsheathed. And then when you get in a posture break, we're going to be combining regular hits with dual katanas. And after we get a posture break on the dragon here, this is the same build and setup, so you don't need to change anything. You could just add another katana, either the starting katana or a second Nagakiba, and then with the regular hits there, power stancing it, we can get a lot of bleed build up and damage fast. And being a samurai never gets old. It definitely makes for fun playthroughs, no doubt. And at number 3, we have the Bloodblade Placidusax or Placidusa build. This combines Placidusax or Placidusa's Ruin. Still not sure how to say that the right way. And we're going to be using Bloodblade in combination with it. We're going to use this incantation specifically in combination with the Bleed build. And of course, for that option, we're going to be using the Nagakiba on a Colt with Bloodblade. That'll give us a decent amount of AR, around close to 80 bleed buildup. And then when you make contact with the weapon, you'll get a ton of bleed buildup with the Bloodblade Ash of War. And then you could switch back to the incantation at any time you see fit. By the way, if you want to learn more about this specific incantation, I'll leave my build I did for it on the other channel. My other channel, Your Average Variety Gamer. If you want to get more damage out of Placidusa's Ruin, if you want to see how much damage you can get with it, you could take down some bigger targets with it quite easily. It definitely has a high damage ceiling. It's just a little bit erratic. Now, it is not boosted by the Dragon Communion Seal, but since we're a bleed build, that's going to give us our best scaling. Unfortunately, it has no boost with the Dragon Communion Seal because technically it's not a Dragon Communion incantation. Yeah, the only ones that are boosted by that are the ones you can get from the specific Dragon Communion, like churches essentially is what they are, where you go and trade the Dragon Hearts for them, and they'll be boosted by the seal by, I think, 15% or so. This one is not boosted, but it can still be really good. Let's jump into equipment. Can't remember if the normal boost is 15 or 20%. We have the Nagakiba on Occult Affinity with Bloodblade, Dragon Communion Seal, White Mask, Shard of Alexander, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Roar Medallion, Fire Scorpion Charm, Flame Tier, Fate Tier. And for our stats on this one, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 22 Endurance. We have 22 Dexterity for the Nagakiba and 18 Strength, so we can single-hand it. We have 40 Faith and 50 Arcane, and we're using Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, Dragon Ice, and Placidusax Ruin. And at number 2, we have the Ice Spear Mage, probably one of the most powerful ones on this list, and this combines Ice Spear, which we're using the Guardian Sword Spear and Magic Affinity for this, and then we're also using Lucette Staff to cast spells in our offhand. And as you can see, we got 3,400 damage with Ice Spear, which is pretty impressive. If you didn't know this about Ice Spear, by the way, it also does 20 poise damage on each hit and builds up Frost. We did get the Frost proc there too. And then, of course, we're going to finish off the Godskin Apostle by using spells. And the spells I like to use here is for bigger targets, Shard Spiral, and then for smaller targets, Comet. Basically something we can charge and use the Godfrey Icon's 15% boost because that's going to help us out a lot. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know for this one. And now for equipment on this one, we have the Guardian Sword Spear and Magic Affinity with Ice Spear. We have Lucette Staff getting 314 scaling, Golden Order Seal, which is also good for scaling. Spellblade Set will boost the damage on Ice Spear. Shard of Alexander, Magic Scorpion Charm, Ritual Sword Salesman, Godfrey Icon, Magic Tier, and Faith Tier. And now we're going to jump into stats on this one. We have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 20 Endurance, 60 Intelligence, 33 Faith with the Faith tier, so we could do some crazy buffs for Ice Spear, Golden Vow, Halashabiri, Terra Magica, Shard Spiral, Duel's Moonblade, and Comet. And at number 1, we have the all HP build. This will give you around 3,000 HP in total, which is a ton of HP. And then we're going to be using the Blasphemous Blade to gain back HP on top of all of that. And then Blessings of the Erdtree as well. And of course, Morgoth's Great Rune. Look at the HP bar we have up top. It is pretty insane. And then we have Endure on a dagger that we could use to switch to if you want to add in some extra defense. And I'm using the Fire Prelate set here, but you could use something like the Bull Goat set too, which might even be a little bit better. Now, as I might say often in my videos, a ton of damage. You're not going to get a ton of damage out of this one because we're focused more on defense here. We're focused on vigor, high endurance, and all that stuff. We have around 40 faith. You have a decent amount of damage with the Blasphemous Blade, but the ultimate goal here is to be able to take a lot of damage. Basically, you can get hit a ton with this build. Now, the Fire Prelate set worked well for me. Again, I mentioned a few others. There's also Lionel's set, too. That's going to be really good for a build and setup like this. And then I recommend the Blasphemous Blade, or if you want a closer option that's a little more challenging to use, you could use Prayerful Strike as well. Yeah, I went with the Blasphemous Blade because it just seemed a little bit more sensible. We could use it at a range, continuously heal ourselves, get a good amount of fire damage, around 1,500 to 2,000 damage per Ash of War, and then of course we could take a good amount of hits as well with this awesome setup. And we're using Black Flame's protection too. Keep in mind that does not stack with Flame Grant Me Strength or Halashabiri because they're body buffs. You can only have one body buff and one aura buff running at the same time. And then you can add stuff in like the Ritual Shield Talisman, Dragon Crest. When you use Endure, I've done this with other builds, never really got to this amount of HP though. I don't think I've ever done a build where I've had 3,000 HP, but you could use all that defensive stuff as well to get around close to 90% defense when you use Endure. Yeah, this build's kind of a lifesaver. Does it take a little bit to take down bosses with a build like this? Yeah, it's going to, because we're not focused on damage here. We're focused instead on being able to make mistakes, take hits, and basically go into a fight, have a longer fight, but manage it easily with a ton of HP and defense. And you even saw me get hit by Commander Niall a couple times, and we're able to take those hits without it really impacting our very, very large HP bar up top there too much. You can take a lot of damage with this type of build, and this is going to be easy mode for a lot of players because you're essentially running a defense build without a shield. I even let him hit me at the end there, if you saw with Endure. Even for non-physical damage, it took a decent amount of damage because this is New Game +7, but with that HP bar we have, we're going to pretty much be able to survive almost everything in Elden Ring, and it's going to be very, very easy with a setup like this. Let's jump into equipment and stats, everything you need to know. And now for this, we have the Blasphemous Blade +10. We have Endure on a dagger. You don't need it upgraded. We have the Erdtree Seal. I was using the Fire Prelate set. We have the Shard of Alexander. Crimson Amber Medallion +2. Erdtree's Favorite +2. Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman. We have the Crimson Burst Crystal tier and Flame tier. And for stats, we have 60 Vigor, 25 Mind, we have 50 Endurance, 16 Strength, 15 Dexterity, we have 40 Faith, we have 14 Arcane that you do not need. I started as the Bandit class, by the way, for this specific character, so you can put those 5 points elsewhere, and we're using Golden Vow, Black Flame's Protection, and Blessings of the Erdtree. And thanks for watching this one. Thanks for tuning in to my 8 new overpowered builds that you could run for DLC. A lot of hybrid builds, a lot of options here. Be sure to sub if you're not subbed yet. This has been an amazing community that continues to grow. By the time this video releases, Elden Ring's DLC will be out in just 12 days. After an over 2-year wait, it is almost here. Let's go. We're right around the corner from DLC. Thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to sub, catch you soon, and have a wonderful day.